Alright, so today I'm going to be trying to teach just Pixelmon's breeding mechanic, which can be complicated, but I mean, eventually you'll get a hang of it. It just trial and error basically, and it just takes a lot of time. You just have to be patient with this whole system. That is my heads up for this entire video. So first off, this isn't really a breeding mechanic as much as it is like a just niche little thing. So if you get a Pokemon Flame Body like Cargo here, it hatches the egg twice as fast, which I mean, that's just, let's be real, that's just very useful to begin with. So, the main thing we're going to want to talk about at first here is this block called the daycare. Basically, this is the block that allows you to just start breeding all your Pokemon. And it's kind of, well, obviously, it's just needed for everything when it comes to breeding. So, the way it works is you get two Pokemon that are capable of breeding, and then you put them in these two slots with whatever items that are necessary. Then there will be a check mark. You have to click that, and then they will be in this box one, or whatever is the first open box. So, through enough trial and error, you will eventually get a BP, but I'm going to try to explain how to get to the point of BPs first before, well, tossing you in the water. So, if you're wondering what the term BP and BPHA is, it means Battle Perfect and Battle Perfect Hidden Ability. You may be wondering what a hidden ability is. We're going to get into that topic a bit further down the line because that is a slightly longer explanation, as it's not complicated, it's just something that you want it to be your own subject so you can just, properly understand it so you're not confused. So the second subject here is the two hourglasses. You have the silver hourglass and the golden hourglass. So the silver hourglass here, what that does is it speeds up the breeding process by 1/4. So you have to actively have them in the daycare breeding for this one to work. But the golden hourglass here, it just skips the whole process and you don't have to use any materials. But mind you, since it skips the entire process instead of doing 1/4 like that, it costs 4 times the amount that one does. But the way this works is basically once you have it, so let's say if I had 4 of these, and I had 2 mons eligible to breeding, I would put them in 2 slots like I explained before. I would make them, well, start breeding. Then use the silver hourglass and then click it 4 times because it'd be 4 separate ones, which each get consumed with every one of those. Then the entire 22 minutes would be skipped, or the 45, depending on how long the breeding takes. The next thing here is the golden hourglass. As I said, this just skips the entire process. You don't have to use the material to make them start breeding, and it just skips the entire time. But as I said, cost a lot more and is not easy to obtain. So next up is the power items. These can be a bit complicated, but it's still on a base level pretty easy to understand. So what we're going to start off with here is the power weight. This is the representation of HP, as when you have it on the Pokemon, it carries down the HP stat. So if we go to the PC here, and then we go to this first box, we have a Blissey with the item. If we do IVs1, you'll see, I don't know, it has 31 speed, but hey, we ignore that. If I put that power bracer on this HP stat would get carried down 100% of the time, as long as the other parent isn't also carrying the power bracer. So that logic applies to every last one of these items, just within a different respective stat. The power bracer is for the attack stat, power belt is for defense, power lens is special attack, power band is special defense, and then power anklet, which is the most complicated one, is for speed. So as said, with each one of these, it will take down that specific stat to the next mon. So if we have this whole array of mons right here, you'll see they each have their best stat carrying down. So like Alakazam here, really good special attacker, so you want him to be bred as a special attacker. If I caught an Abra with 31 special attack, which is the max stat by the way, you would use that and it'd be carried down. So, as said, that's kind of self-explanatory for all of these. You have HP, attack, defense, special attack, special defense, and then speed. But you see 3 mons here, so you're probably going to be a tad bit confused. Like, hey, why is there 3 mons here instead of the, one like the rest of them? Basically, it's going to do the same thing no matter what we do here. It's always going to carry that speed stat. but there's different applications for the speed stats, the thing. So Dragapult here, fairly fast mon, you want to outspeed things, so you're going to breed it with that speed stat, as you can see here. He has a 31 speed, and you want that. But then you're wondering, hey, why is there an Ursaluna and Pelipper next to him? There's two different things you can do with the speed stat, where this item technically does the same thing, but it has a different application for a BP. So instead of it carrying over a 31 in speed like this, if we go over and switch him out with this Ursaluna here, and we do IV's 6, you'll see he has 0 speed. The reason that is because there's a strategy called Trick Room. What that does is it flips the dimensions and makes the slowest mon on the field the fastest. So my Ursaluna here would usually get outsped 10 times over by, let's say, this Alakazam. But in Trick Room, what's going to happen is he's actually the faster one. So, well, for an obviously good point, if this thing's faster, and if you know anything about Ursaluna, you can also do this command called /wiki. So, we do this, boom, you see Guts, and you're wondering what that does. It's a whole thing where basically if it has a status effect, it basically just hits harder. Not the point I'm getting to here. You see the speed stat, and then you see this attack stat. If he's slower than everything with this tactical nuke of an attack stat, he's wiping most things off the face of the earth. That is what Trick Room is. So, slow mons that are bulky and hit really hard. Then you see Pelipper. Why is Pelipper here? None of his attacking stats are great. He's used as more or less just pivot and defense. And that, my friend, you answered your own question. Because he's used for defense and pivot. So, say you're a Pelipper versus a Pelipper. You both U-turn. What's going to happen is this one right here, the slower Pelipper, let's say he's relaxed 0 speed IV. What's going to happen is mine's going to move last, which means I get to pivot after the other Pokemon pivots. So I'll see what they switch into before they can see what I switch into, and you'll be in a tactically better situation. So to cover everything here one last time, we have the HP, attack, defense, special defense, and the 3 different types of speed necessary. You have fast attacker, slow, bulky Trick Room, and then defensive pivot that you make slower so you can pivot out after the opposing Pokemon so you can see what's happening. To the next point of this video, we want to talk about the item called the Destiny Knot. The Destiny Knot is a really complicated item to understand because it loves to be random. This item will throw your head through a loop half the time because it doesn't want to listen to its own rules. Basically, what it does is if you have a Destiny Knot, let's say my Ursaluna right here, I want to carry over all these stats except special attack. And what Destiny Knot does is it carries over 5 stats total. But what it's supposed to be is it's supposed to be 3 from the holder, 2 from the opposing Pokemon it's breeding with. But what it does instead is it takes 5 stats total from both parents. Usually it works how I described it, but sometimes you can get really lucky and take like 4 out of the 6 stats from here and get a BP basically first try. Or if you're in the case of you're just breeding up stats, it would take just majority of those stats and then just put it to the child. So, just to recap that though, it's supposed to take 2 from the opposing Pokemon and 3 from the holder, but it takes 5 total overall. So, that's what you're going to want to do is when you're trying to, if you have a BP and you have a non-BP, if you breed the BP one with the Destiny Knot on it, that means you're going to be having a way better chance to producing BPs compared to when you're using like power items here. Because of the fact of the matter is it takes 5 versus 1. So that's kind of easy but difficult to understand because it kind of just goes in circles. So if you have any questions about that, just ask and I'll try to answer them, but as I said, it just takes 5 stats total from both parents, usually 3 from holder, 2 from the opposing. The next item on the list, though, is the Everstone. This item has 2 main applications. So, let's say you're breeding Blazikins. If you find a female one by whatever lucky chance, but you forgot to, like, put the proper nature on it, but you have one already that has the right nature, not necessarily BP, it just has the right nature, but it's a male one. What you're going to want to do is you're going to put the Everstone on the male one right here, And then the offspring is gonna have whatever like combination of stats plus that one random stat that's guaranteed, unless you're not using Destiny yachts, then I think it's about half of them are guaranteed to be random. So as a just to recap, takes over the nature primarily. That's the main thing this is used for. So it can carry over the nature, so the Jolly here, and let's say if they're BP, he would carry over that, and you would eventually get a female one with that nature, put the Everstone on that, and if he was BP, you put the Everstone, sorry, not Everstone, you put the Destiny on him now, and then you can start producing BPs, or at least attempt to. Now, to the second point of the Everstone, which not a lot of people know to begin with, it has the ability to take down a form to the baby. So let's say you have this Vulpix right here and this one right here. Let's say you breed them with no items. It's guaranteed to be this, because this is just the base Vulpix slash Ninetales. But what you can actually end up doing is you can put the Everstone on the one with the form, like this Alolan one. So if it wears that stone now, when the Everstone when they're breeding, what's going to happen is you're going to start producing this Alolan texture, or for other mons, there's the Galarian, well, the whole other list. And for those wondering, if you already know this, if a Pokemon has an HA, say this one's the female and it has Drought, as long as you just put this Everstone on this one, it will turn into the Alolan form and then have it the HA still. As said, the only thing that requires the HA to pass down is it just being female. Simple as that. Then you can just toss an Everstone on it. And this applies to basically anything with the regional forms. So you can start producing two different types of BPHAs, or just BPs in general, with only owning one of the forms originally. So that's just a really nice niche thing, so you don't have to go out hunting for both forms. This applies to, as said, things like Slowpoke, or I can't really think of any other things. I guess Corsola is another one. But to get onto the fun part of this video, which a lot of people get confused by, there's something within Pixelmon and Pokemon alike called egg groups. What this is a category what a Pokemon belongs to when it comes to breeding. So let's say this Gyarados here. He belongs to the Water 2 and Dragon egg group. And if you're wondering, Water 2, does that mean there's multiple water egg groups? And the answer to that is yes, there's 3 of them total. If you want to find out about egg groups, what you can do is, if you grab a Pixelmon related item like this Power Bracer, put it in your hand and then click K, that will open up the Pixelmon wiki on your browser. What that'll allow you to do is, if you go into the search bar and then search up egg groups, that will show you all of them. But to the next part of this, what's going to happen is, say I have a BP male Gyarados and I want to start breeding up Haxorus. I can use this to get the Dragon egg group with this Haxorus, but he's also Monster egg group, which means I can expand to something like Dreadnought, which has the Water 1 egg group. Then this can be Tamaro, which has Water 1 Fairy, so on to this Fairy Grass Breloom. Then you have Grass Human-like. After that, there's Human-like Field, Field Flying, Flying Water 3 Bug, Bug Mineral, Mineral Ampharis. And if you notice the pattern there, each of those have to share an egg group to breed. So when I said earlier, if they're eligible to go in the breeder, these two are a great example. He's Dragon egg group, and so is he. If I put those two in the breeder, it will work. But let's say if I put this Haxorus in the daycare and this Breloom, it is physically impossible for these two to ever breed because they do not belong to the same egg group. So, as I said, if you just go to the wiki, then you can see all the things. You can click on those names. So let's say you click on Water 3, you can read through every Pokemon with the Water 3 egg group, and you can expand your egg groups like that. You can have one BP and then expand to all the egg groups and basically just start mass breeding. Now, this next thing is called a mirror herb, and it's gonna kind of confuse you because it's gonna sound like everything I just said was a lie. I'm gonna be honest, it's gonna sound like that, but there's the thing about the mirror herb. What it does is it carries down something called an egg move. So if we go here, put these guys all the way real quick, then if I grab, where are they there? So if I go to the daycare over here, and let me just make sure this is, yep, we ignore that. But if we go here, make sure it's not wearing the mirror herb. But this King Gambit, it belongs to the human-like egg group, and this Arbok belongs to the dragon and field egg group. So they're incapable of breeding. But King Gambit here needs a move called Sucker Punch that he can only get via breeding. Arbok here is able to learn Sucker Punch. So you're gonna think, oh, but that's physically impossible for them to breed. As long as you put them in without the mirror on first, and then you put it on like this, boom, Sucker Punch. It's important to note though, make sure you have empty slots. So let's say if I have all four moves and it's not Sucker Punch, if I try this trick, it will not work because Sucker Punch won't be able to overwrite that move that's going to be there. So you need at least one empty slot for this to carry over. But another thing I should note, you can't just put a move on this and just put it on the other mon. He learns specifically Sucker Punch through this. You can't just put some, like, let's say glare. You can't put the glare on this Arbok and then put it on King Gambit because he's physically incapable and will never learn that move. So now that we have that out of the way, the one thing I want to come wrap around with is something I've been hinting at this whole time called a hidden ability. What that is a Pokemon's ability that isn't their standard ability and is very rare. It is about 1 in 150 or not percent, but it's a 1 in 150 chance to find it in the wild. And then if you go to Ultra Space, it's 1 in 75. So if we click Wiki Rillaboom here, he has Overgrown as his base ability, but then he has something called Grassy Glide in brackets HA, which stands for Hidden Ability. So once you find this, you're going to be like, oh, cool, I have its hidden ability now. But it's not carrying down no matter what you do. You're going to be wondering why. If it's male, a male is physically incapable of passing out the hidden ability unless it's with a Ditto. So you're going to breed it long enough for you to finally produce a female HA Grookey. After you get that Grookey, then you can start producing BPHAs. So now that we have that whole hidden ability thing out of the way, I want to start discussing Ditto breeding as a whole. There are certain mods who only have one gender. We have Grimmsnarl here and Hatterini. He is 100% male rate, she is 100% female rate. So you're going to be thinking, oh wow, but they need somebody the opposite gender to breed. That is true, but these two both belong to the fairy egg group. She can breed with someone from the fairy egg group and produce BP Hatterinis or Hatenna. Grimmsnarl here isn't so lucky. There is nothing besides Ditto he can breed with. So you have to get a really good stat, I forget what his name is when he's the little impotent, that's what it is, and then a good IV Ditto. Those two, once you put them in the daycare, they'll start breeding, and that is the only method he has to breed. But since he is part of the fairy egg group, he is able to breed with other fairy egg group. So technically these two are capable of breeding, despite the fact he himself cannot be produced by anything but that. So now that we have that out of the way, you're wondering, what's a Ditto breed overall? What a Ditto breed is a Pokemon with no gender most of the time, and he's literally the one exception to this. But let's say Rotom, Beldum, and Sinistea here. These three have no gender, so they're not capable of breeding, unless with this Ditto. So you have to, as I said, get a good IV, either Rotom, Beldum, or Sinistea, and then a good IV Ditto. And then you can start trying to produce BP Ditto breeds, which I will say this now, you can sell for a way higher price than you can BPs. But what I want to say is just, it's not easy. This is going to be a process that's going to drain your sanity, and I really don't recommend it unless you're trying to make a lot of money. But it's going to take a lot of time unless you boost these things up with IV papers. Even then, it's going to be hard to produce BPs. So that's just that out of the way. You're going to see the Rayquaza behind me, though, like, be thinking, oh, wait, hey, am I able to breed Rayquaza with Ditto? On Smash MC, the answer is no. So, for Rayquaza here, he just can't be bred with anything because he is a legendary. But let's say you have something like Manaphy here. Manaphy is the one and only exception to the legendary breeding rule because it produces another mon called Phione. As I said, these are the only two kind of legends, which I'm pretty sure actually are mythicals that can breed with Ditto. No other legendary or even mythical can, but that's don't get that confused for pseudo legendaries. That is a whole different topic where it's like things like Salamence, Metagross, Tyranitar, things like that. So there's actually one last thing I want to say about hidden abilities now that I think about it though. Hidden ability paper converts on Smash MC, those disable the ability to breed. So don't just be like, oh hey, I have a really rare mon, he has a really good HA, let me use this paper. No. What that's going to do is just disable his breeding and is no longer able to be used for breeding. It can only be used for combat and just PvE. That is its only use then. But with all that explained and out of the way, what I want to say is if you have any questions at all, don't be afraid to ask. Just go to the comments, ask me. I'll try to answer them to the best of my abilities. But if you want to join the whole Smash MC server that I'm talking, the link to the Discord should be in the description, as well as the IP to the server. You just have to download the correct Pixelmon version, which you can find a video from Spirit himself who explaining how to download it. I'll make a video on it as well, but I just wanted to get breeding, like, just as the first thing, since it's just a like kind of complicated topic, which most people don't understand. So what I'm gonna do just one last time, just go over everything. So you have the daycare block, which is used for breeding. You have the hourglasses, which are used to skip time within the breeding process. The power items, which are used to carry over one specific stat. For the power anklet, it has technically 3 uses, which are all the same use. Then we have the Destiny Knot, which is used for taking 5 stats total out of all 6. Then you have the Everstone, which is used for natures and forms specifically. You have egg groups, which you can look at the wiki for to find out who's within each egg group, or you can just do /wiki as well. Then next thing is Mirrored for egg moves, which I've already taught you about. And the last things were the HAs, the gender specifics, ditto breeds, and then legendary /mythicals. So now that all that's wrapped up, I'm gonna wrap this video as well. Hope you guys enjoyed it. As I said, if you want to join the server, it's in the description. The Discord as well. Just feel free to pop in, talk to the community. Pretty friendly. If I had to recommend a server, I would say Kyogre. In my opinion, it's just the best server. I hope this video helps anyone who watched it. If, as I said, any questions, feel free to ask. But for now, I'll talk to you guys at a future date. Hope you guys enjoyed and hope this helped you guys learn. See ya.